Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Thank you from the bottom of my heart so much for this very warm welcome. I'm absolutely honored to be here today and be able to share my story. I just want to say thank you to the Keller Williams of Greater PA region for the very special invitation to speak here today. I'm absolutely honored to be here to share my story. I've got family all throughout this great state in Pennsylvania, all throughout this region in Philadelphia, this part of Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, all throughout Maryland, obviously where I'm from. And it's just so great to be here. So many wonderful memories in this area. I volunteered a lot all throughout this region. As you see from the race schedule, I've done a lot of races throughout this area, especially Philadelphia, Delaware, Maryland, and just ran the Run for the Red Marathon in the Poconos chapter of the Red Cross in Pennsylvania 2 weeks ago. And we came through here to stop at Valley Forge. First time I wanted to be able to see a lot of history in this area as well, which was a phenomenal experience. And also to bring it more home with this group today with Keller Williams, my aunt is also a Keller Williams real estate agent. And I've always heard so many amazing experiences, so many stories that she has shared, and I can definitely tell that this truly is a family group. And like I said, it's truly an honor and a privilege to be here. As you can tell from the video, my presentation today is not too specific on real estate or business or the housing market and so forth, but what I hope to do is create the connections in a lot of ways with the actual mastermind program. This is my first mastermind program. And for me, I just see so many connections and such an alignment with my background and experiences and also what has been touched upon today. I've been able to come in this morning and listen to a lot of the presentations and the amazing panelists. And I've been so inspired myself and so moved because of what you're doing in your fields and your careers and in your life. It's truly amazing. And when it comes to the mastermind program, especially when it comes to setting goals, overcoming adversity, having those challenges, not giving up, believing in the power of your dreams, the power of teamwork and support, and a support system, and also when it comes to living a life worth living. I love that. Everything about that I think is just tremendous. And coming here today, walking in this room, first of all, and having the energy and the music and seeing all the motivational quotes all throughout this venue, it's going to be a great day. So I really appreciate the invitation. In order to kind of present some of those themes, to touch upon some of the program characteristics of the Mastermind program, I thought it'd be very important for me to kind of provide a bit about my background, where I come from, who I am, and so forth, besides just triathlons and car accidents and so forth. My name is Brian Boyle. I am 33 years old. I am from Maryland. I work full-time in the marketing field. I am also a public speaker. I've done about 300 keynotes across the world over the past 10 years. All about gratitude, all about sharing the appreciation in my story and so forth. I published 3 books. I write for several different international columns. I do triathlons and marathons. I'm a triathlon coach, personal trainer. I've worked on various programs when it comes to healthcare consulting over the years as well. And when it comes to this also with the endurance sports, I continue doing triathlons and marathons a little bit faster these days than what you saw behind me in the video. My recent event was actually the American Ninja Warrior about 2 weeks ago in the Baltimore area, which was a great experience. And today, what I hope to talk about is the story, the background, and those experiences as well. So going back to 15 years ago, things were very different. In that point in time, I was actually on my deathbed in the intensive care unit after being involved in a near-fatal car accident. 1 month after graduating from high school in 2004, I was coming home from swim practice and was involved in a near-fatal car accident with a speeding dump truck. The injuries were catastrophic. I was trapped in my car at the accident scene, and it took the jaws of life to get me out of the vehicle in just enough time to be medevaced out. I only had 15 minutes left to live, so time definitely was of the essence that day. The impact of the crash ripped my heart across my chest, shattering my ribs, clavicle, and pelvis, collapsing my lungs, damage to pretty much every major organ, failure of my liver and kidneys, removal of the spleen and gallbladder, major nerve damage to my left shoulder, and blood loss of 60%. When I arrived at shock trauma, the main concern was my heart, and to get the blood to stop flowing into places where it wasn't supposed to be going. And after several operations, there wasn't much else to do but wait for over 2 months where I remained in a coma. I was told later that I was the worst patient in a unit for many weeks, besides those who went away to the morgue, and I had to be resuscitated 8 times throughout the entire ordeal. Instead of going through and listing facts of injuries and important moments in time that took place throughout the hospital phase, I'd rather give a brief first-person perspective of what this duration of time was like for me as a patient waking up in room 19 of the intensive care unit. Every person in this room has a story, an experience, and a journey, especially when it comes to overcoming obstacles, setting goals, having the dreams come true, and also having life-defining moments that have made us who we are today. This is where my story begins. I awake to faint buzzing and beeping sounds. I'm alone in a white room looking up at the ceiling. Bright lights shine all around me. My heart is beating loud and fast. I try to move my fingers, but they won't budge. Some sort of mittens cover both of my hands. I try to raise my arms, then legs, but I can't move them. My head won't move either. I can't even blink. What's making those buzzing and beeping noises? It sounds like a machine, perhaps several, but what are they doing? One machine makes a small burst of air that grazes my face. Its slight breeze does not cool my hot skin. I feel beads of sweat pooling on my forehead. When the perspiration rolls down my face and reaches my chapped lips, it cools them because they are extremely dry. My throat is sore and irritated. Complete silence then engulfs me, and I lose consciousness. Time passes and I awake again. Everything in my body feels numb. I want to close my eyes, but they won't move or shut. I feel tears welling up. It's like I'm underwater looking up at the surface, but I'm not in a pool right now. My attention returns to my burning eyes. They've been open for hours, maybe even days. Is that even possible? Wouldn't they dry out at some point? This thought makes me nauseous. I want to vomit, but that urge is overwhelmed by something even more powerful. My left arm is on fire. The pain is excruciating. Please, somebody help me. Somebody get in here and throw water on me, anything, I don't care. Please, I'm begging you. No one comes to my rescue because I can't speak. So I suffer in isolation and maddening silence. My mind goes blank. I can't remember anything, not even my name. Somehow, with that urgent prompting, I remember my name is Brian Boyle, but how old am I? I could be an old man because I just don't know. I could be 98 years old or I could be 18. This is so strange. Am I dead? But if I were dead, I wouldn't have these thoughts because dead people can't think. But I don't feel normal or alive either. Something is terribly wrong. Maybe this is just a bad dream. Let's try to wake up. I can bite my tongue, bite and wake up, but I can't bite my tongue because I can't feel it. Where is it? It has to be somewhere in my mouth. I try harder, but nothing. My heart starts beating faster now. I hear it above all the silence that's filled my mind, but why is it beating in the center of my chest, which isn't where the heart is located? Something heavy is on me because I'm being crushed. The pressure increases. I want to shout, get this thing off me, I can't breathe, but I can't make a sound. My heart is going to explode. An alarm starts beeping and I see red lights flashing in front of me. This is real. It's not happening in a dream. I hear footsteps, several. Now I feel many hands on me, grab my feet, arms, head. The hands pick me up and I'm placed on a table with wheels. Why? What are you doing and where are you taking me? Blurry shadows of people move around me. Voices are talking loud and fast about my heart and emergency surgery. Does this mean that I'm at a hospital? And why is there a problem with my heart? This can't be good. I must be really hurt. When did I get here? Mom, Dad, where are you? I need you. I'm being pushed down all these different hallways. The ceiling looks the same everywhere. Large white rectangular sheets of tile broken up by fluorescent lights with plastic covers. The gurney is moving fast with several people running alongside. They're also dragging the beeping machines. A large man looms over me. Underneath his white lab coat, he's wearing a light blue buttoned-up shirt. There's a ballpoint pen in his front pocket, and he's wearing an ID card connected to a lanyard. I read the name, Dr. James Catavinas, ICU Director. ICU, that's intensive care unit. This has gone from bad to worse. Only people who are critically injured or near death find themselves in intensive care. I stare up at one of the doctors who stands to my left. He must be the chief surgeon because he's directing everyone. I hear that fluid is building up around my heart. I watch his hands hover near my chest. He's holding a shiny object, and it looks sharp like a scalpel. The overhead light grows brighter, and within seconds, it swallows me in an even brighter flash. The last thing I hear before I lose consciousness are the surgeon's words, "Let's hope the third time is the charm." Luckily, the third time was the charm. And during those 2 months in ICU, I was on the brink and slipping fast. In a chemically induced coma, I laid there on my back, paralyzed and in a state of total confusion. I woke up not knowing how I arrived there. Medicated drugs that were many times stronger than morphine were flowing through my veins, and the life support machines kept my lungs breathing and my heart beating. I remember seeing and hearing horrible things constantly. It was as if I was living in a nightmare that I could never awake or escape from. Death was always near. During my coma, there were several times where I overheard my medical team talking about the need to transfer me to a nursing home for 24-hour care the rest of my life. And I couldn't believe it. Just a few weeks earlier, I had all these goals and dreams for the future, but on July 6th, they were all shattered in an instant like the bones in my body. It was a horrifying experience, especially when I looked out my room and I saw nurses pushing stretchers by with white sheets covering the other patients because they weren't as lucky as me. One memory I'll never forget is when a mother and her daughter stopped by my open door to talk to the nurse outside my hospital room. The little girl looked into my room and she screamed, "Mommy, there's a monster in that room." The woman glanced at me and said to her, "Oh, honey, don't look at that." She grabbed her daughter and rushed off, and my mind sank in absolute shame as if I was no longer human. I also remember my parents coming into my room several times a day, and they would stand there and desperately beg me to stay strong and keep fighting, while also trying to explain to me the situation that I was in. With all the sadness that we were facing as a family, there were still some good things happening as well, even though they rarely occurred during this stage. One of those amazing days came when I was able to learn how to talk again, a day my parents and I will never forget. After several attempts to get me to say a few syllables, one lucky day, it just happened out of nowhere. My respiratory therapist hooked this object up to my trach, and I tried to sound out a few syllables, and all of a sudden, I began talking. I could not believe I was talking, and neither could anybody else. All my nurses and doctors came running into my room, and they all broke out in tears when they saw me. My parents had just arrived for visiting sessions that day, and they were awestruck. I remember telling my dad that everything was going to be okay, and he couldn't keep his composure and just burst into tears. As for my mom, I don't think she stopped crying for the entire 2 months that I was in ICU, but at least in that moment, these are tears of joy. After 14 life-saving operations, 36 blood transfusions, and 13 plasma treatments, I lost a total of 100 pounds and had to go to a local rehab center. This is the memory of what my first physical therapy session was like, the second phase of my journey. I sit alone. Almost everyone here is confined to a wheelchair, both the manual and motorized kind. Several patients are moving about using crutches, walkers, or canes. I imagine the age range starts in the early teens and reaches into the 90s. Some could be war vets from Iraq, Vietnam, the Korean War, maybe even World War II. I wonder how many are victims of a car accident like myself. Several people are missing an arm or a leg. Some are lying flat on their backs on padded mats, missing all 4 limbs. In one corner is a small group of patients with heads caved in, eyes missing, and faces half gone. A teenage boy is sitting in a wheelchair about 15 feet from me. His head is completely encased by a wire frame that is bolted into his skull. His face is rigid and expressionless, with drool spilling down his chin. I look at him and imagine myself looking very similar just a few weeks prior to this moment. If I had visited this place before my accident, I honestly would have been frightened. Yet when I peer down at my scarred, shrunken body, I realize that I'm just like the other people at the rehab center. And as I look around at everyone in the physical therapy unit, a fraternity of fellow sufferers, I notice that some are smiling and waving at me. I return their welcoming gestures, feeling an immediate acceptance. One wheelchair-bound man in his late 40s is talking to an older woman who must be his therapist. He keeps looking in my direction, and as he shakes her hand to say goodbye, he wheels himself over to where I'm sitting. "Hey, buddy, how are you? My name is Jerry. Is this your first day here?" he asks. "Yes, I just got here yesterday," I respond. "I was in a bad car accident and was just released from ICU. So how long have you been here?" Behind his grin, there was an overwhelming sadness in his eyes. Jerry says that he has been here for 3 weeks because his medical team is trying some kind of new therapy to repair his broken vertebrae. I ask him how he broke his back. His voice turns shaky as he replays the fateful day. "I was a passenger in my brother's car," he says. "We were on the highway. Our mother was sitting in the front seat, and my wife was next to me in the back. Our daughter was in between us. A semi-truck driving on the left side lost control and rammed into us, killing my brother and mother on impact. My wife and daughter later died in the hospital. I was the only survivor." I look at Jerry without saying anything, speechless. I reach out my hand to him, holding onto his shoulder and offering sympathy as I get choked up as well. Listening to Jerry and thinking about the other patients at the rehab center, I understand that everyone has an equally painful and tragic story, including me. One day you are fine, driving home from swim practice or traveling somewhere with your family, and then suddenly out of nowhere, your life is changed in an instant, and you find yourself living in a different world. You only hope that with the promise of rehab to mend your damaged body, that your spirit won't break as well. At a young age, I found out what it really means to depend on others. At the age of 18, I wasn't living the normal life of a high school graduate. Instead, I was pretty much reborn. I had to learn how to blink, move my fingers, talk, eat, tie my shoes, shower, and do everything in my own strength to live independently again, at least somewhat close to the way things used to be, with a lot of help from those around me. I remember when I was in and out of the medical facility just a few years ago, looking around the room and seeing people just like me trying to perform the most basic, minimal tasks in front of their nurses, therapists, and staff support. Full-grown men crying out in pain as they bench press a broomstick. A young boy learning how to walk again after a drunk driver ran him over. A 12-year-old girl who lost her arms and legs to a flesh-eating disease, who hides her tears behind sunglasses while she learns how to sit up in a chair without falling over. These are just a handful of memories I'll never forget, and it was all there, the breathtaking sadness, the human misery. But when you take away all those types of components, you have regular people who once lived normal every single day lives. And reflecting on these experiences, I've learned over the years that we all have our own experiences in life that have made us who we are. You don't have to be in a coma or ICU for 2 months to understand life any better than someone else. Every day, we all face our own moments of adversity, both large and small, and we are tested, and we do the best we can with what we have. But just like anything else, there will always be obstacles out there, and it's talking about facing these obstacles that will make the difference, and having character traits that include honesty, determination, fairness, and responsibility will help make a positive outcome. And from personal experience, I truly believe that it is through our observation of those around us that present us with these traits of character. Through our family, friends, coworkers, colleagues, administration, they set the example and prepare us for the present and the future. And these character traits are reflected and defined through the experiences that we each face on a daily basis. Therefore, they define who we are. When a challenge is presented to us, we do our best to overcome whatever the situation is. And as a result, we learn about ourselves through the process that makes us stronger. We acknowledge that our mistakes can be learning lessons. A tragedy can be transformed into a triumph, and an obstacle can be the gateway for opportunity. After some time, I was transferred from my rehab center back home to do outpatient therapy several times a week with people of all backgrounds and ages. And I spent a few months in a wheelchair. I took very small steps on my own with a walker, then a cane, and there was some help from my parents on each side of me. It was a miracle I could walk again, but I wanted to push even further and not only walk, but run. After I accomplished that, I wanted to get back in the pool again. The human spirit is an amazing thing. After a few months of going to the hospital and doing the physical therapy and occupational therapy, I was able to go on with my recovery process, go to college a year after leaving ICU, compete on the swim team, and then 2 years later, compete in the Ironman triathlon, which was one of the greatest moments of my life, to cross the finish line on October 13th, 2007. It was like being given the breath of life all over again. And that was just a really special day. And ladies and gentlemen, today is also a very special day for me, since I have the privilege to stand here before you all and share my story. Over the years, I've been doing all I possibly can to live each day to the fullest, and hopefully motivating and inspiring other people who are going through a similar adverse situation as mine. I want to show them that it's okay to never give up on their dreams and to never stop believing in themselves, no matter how bad a situation is or how tough life may seem. And that's the moral of my story, which, like I said, is only a single journey within this entire room. When it comes to life, it really comes down to taking that first step that matters most when things begin to change direction. And yes, this can relate to overcoming extreme tragedy, but it's also very relevant to every factor of our lifestyles as well. Setting goals, pursuing dreams, accomplishing various tasks. No matter what life throws at you, you have the strength and character to overcome it. And with the right attitude, you can achieve anything you set your mind to. When I look back 15 years ago, when I was still in the hospital, I was 2 months in ICU, completely sedated, but I was very hypersensitive to my surroundings. And I will never forget just being there with my parents and watching what they were going through. It was 1,000 times worse watching them suffer because they didn't have the morphine and the heavy sedation. And when I look at that, transforming all the way to where we are today, 15 years later, when it comes to those themes that are in the Mastermind program, when it comes to those moments in life, those life-defining moments. We might look back and reflect on those journeys that we've had over the years that have brought us to this point right now where we are today. Those life-defining moments could be one or two, it can be a whole handful. For me, my life-defining moment was when I was in ICU during the 2-month time frame. And my parents came in that day, and it was my weakest moment in life. And I'll never forget just my mom being held up by the nurses on both sides of her. She had Kleenex to her face because she was just completely helpless. My dad, he came in the room that day. His shoulders were slumped over, barely made eye contact with me, and he's been doing this every day for the past 2 months. But this day was different. I felt as my parents, they knew what I was thinking. I guess that parental instinct is very, very strong. And I was giving up in that point in time. My dad talks about the pep talk in the video. There's a few choice words that he said in that pep talk, but it shocked the life back into me. And I realized by the fire in their eyes that I had to keep going for them. It wasn't about me anymore. It wasn't about me on the hospital bed, on my deathbed. It was about what can I do to help them. They were believing in me when I didn't have the strength to believe in myself. Watch my parents go through this. They were my heroes growing up. They were my buddies, my best friends, and I'm watching them suffer. And I can't do anything about it in that point in time, but I did have control of the situation. That was my life-defining moment. The strongest moment came from my weakest moment, because when they left that day, they left completely helpless, but they weren't hopeless. And that night, when they came back in for the third and final set of visiting sessions that day, I was able to visually show them that I'm still here and still fighting for them by smiling. And seeing the joy it brought to their faces, I became so addicted to seeing that happiness again. And I thought, what else can I do to show them I'm still here? Over time, I was able to eventually mouth words. I could move my fingers for yes or no commands, which is more reliable over time, and eventually able to talk with the speaking valve up to where my trach was, and then eventually leaving the hospital, getting back into life again. But it came from that support system. We talked about it all day today. I've heard so many amazing presentations on the power of teamwork and our empire builders and our supporters and the people that are a part of our family that are believing in us and supporting us. And for me, those life-defining moments, it's so true, because when I go back and I think about that day, I wouldn't have made it out of the hospital if I didn't have my parents there believing in me, motivating me, encouraging me. Also, my healthcare team, dozens of people that were helping me along that process as well. I had a great support system. As we transition to the next phase of recovery, it was about goal setting. I've heard a lot of conversations and discussions today on goal setting. Whether you have your annual focus, your annual budget, your quotas, you break it down into monthly goals, you break it down to weekly goals. For me, that's exactly how it was in my recovery. It was focusing on, we had a grand vision that my healthcare team had for me, my occupational therapist, my physical therapist, my parents. It was about getting me back into life again, to be independent again, to be able to tie my shoes and comb my hair and eat on my own. That was the independence that we were seeking, but it wasn't going to happen overnight. So the grand vision was there, to leave the hospital and get better, but we had to break it down into smaller goals, which was just about just trying to chew ice, to drink water, to eat Jell-O, to sit upright, then eventually to standing, and going from that to the walker, to the cane, to walking on my own, 10 steps tomorrow, 11 steps the day after that. It became those small goals over time, became larger goals. And we were seeing progress, and I saw what it did for my family and my support system, and it just further motivated me even more. What else can I do? What else can I do to recover? A year later, going to college, doing the swim team. 2 years after that, completing the healing process of doing the Ironman. Same type of format when it comes to the goal setting. I had the vision of crossing the finish line of the Ironman, but I had to break it down into doing the swim, 2.4 miles. My background was swimming, so that was okay. Then going to the bike course, 112 miles. My background wasn't biking, but I was going to try my best. And I was in that position, aero position, for as long as I could, for 7.5 hours in the lava fields of Kona, Hawaii. Whatever I had left over, I was going to be willing to crawl to get to that finish line, because that was the power of my goal, the power of my dreams. And it's just beyond car accidents, comas, triathlons. It's about something we can all relate to, and that is the power of our goal setting, the power of our dreams. When we have our adversity every single day, we reflect back on those life-defining moments that we've experienced to help us push beyond that, to not settle, to keep progressing, to achieve those goals. And that support system that we have allows that to happen. So with our mentors, our coaches, our colleagues, our leadership, people who are working with us, for us, I mean, the whole process, the whole support system, the empire builders especially, you want to have a great team, because that team is going to help get you through it. That teamwork is monumental when it comes to our goal setting. I didn't get to the finish line of the Ironman the first year that I did it without the support of just dozens of people. I thought about them the entire time that I was doing that race. It was my way of saying thank you to them, showing that gratitude, that appreciation that I had. And then once I was able to cross the finish line and get back into life again, it was all about helping others in a very similar adverse situation, or making an impact, or volunteering, or going around and just speaking to other people who have gone through something similar. And that's what I heard today as well, especially in the previous discussion. It's about helping others when it comes to our team. We see the potential that we have with our colleagues or people who are brand new to real estate or to business. And we see what we can do to help guide them, to help navigate them through their process, to see them succeed. Because when they succeed, we succeed. And that's the impact and the legacy that we have in business, in real estate, in the housing market. It goes all across the board. And that's pretty spectacular. And just to be a part of that, that support system has to be strong. It has to be there. You have to have the belief in your peers, in the people who are working with you, for you, and alongside, because that is what it comes down to. And I feel when it comes to the Mastermind program, especially, you can see the strengths, the weaknesses, what we can work on to grow from, to build from, to excel. So we're doing great today. Well, tomorrow, how can I be better? That's what it comes down to. And that's what I've learned today just being here, listening to the conversations. And I want to know how I can sign up to be one of these mastermind coaches because I'm so motivated just hearing everyone's perspective. I might be in the wrong business. I might just the whole career path switch just because
we have plenty of people who would like to hire you, Brian. So no worries.
But like I said, it's obvious why your group is the powerhouse of real estate. When I came in today, like I said, the motivation in the room, the energy, the music, the people, the presentations, the panelists, you guys should be very proud for what you're doing. It's incredible. There's a part in the video that I really reflected on as I was sitting here waiting for my turn to speak. It was the part in the video where the Ironman triathlon athletes are finishing up the race. The sun's going down. The narrator talks about the people who make the world work and thrive and live. And I hear that, and I think about all of you and your stories today, your success, what you've accomplished, what you are accomplishing, your past that you're on, your careers. It's incredible. So I applaud you. I thank you for all that you do. I grew up in a concrete construction family. My dad is a concrete construction, and I would always go with him on various job sites growing up, high school, college, even during my recovery process. It was my way of being able to help my dad going through post-traumatic stress and so forth. And we had a great opportunity to bond together. We've always been very close, but that was helping him heal in that process as well. And whenever we would go to a new job site, it could be for residential, it could be for commercial, we would have a new plot of land that might have been recently excavated. You know, like the dirt's there, the ground's all worked out, the footers are put in, the basement, the walls, the entire foundation, then the siding and electrical, and all of a sudden you have a house. And then all of a sudden you have a home when you bring in a family or a couple and they bring new life into that home. That is what you do. You are creating memories that will last decades. And that's pretty incredible for when it comes to real estate. Not just for families that are moving into a home, but also for residential and commercial when you're looking at businesses. Because when you look at that aspect of things, you're helping people achieve their goals, their vision. And that's really what it comes down to, is making that difference in life. So I'm just so impressed and so amazed. And I just want to thank you again for the opportunity today. And I wish you all the very best and all you choose to pursue throughout the rest of your real estate careers, in business, and in life. And remember that any day is a great day and you live your dreams. God bless you all, and thank you so much. Thank you.
Brian Boyle, everybody. Do you have books with you? Man.
Thank you.
I mean, you guys have seen my kid today running around, right? We talked to him. Like, I was talking to Brian before he came up today, and I was just like, every time, I've watched that video probably 4 times now, and every time I watch it, when your dad is talking, I'm like, I actually fast forwarded it this morning because I was like, I can't start crying. I already did my makeup. So good. Hey, can we ask a couple of questions if they have any questions? And then Brian brought some of his books, so you guys can get a book. He's going to be set up in the back. So who has a question for Brian? Who wants to be the first person to go? Raise your hand. Okay, who wants to be the second person to go? Okay, we got one over here.
What do you think was the turning point that made you decide to live?
Ooh, that's such a good question. Such a good question. I think For me, it was that moment when I was in the hospital, and my dad talks about the pep talk, and that moment, it was like a flick of the switch, because I was so focused for the first 2 months about hearing, okay, I'm not getting better, I'm in critical condition, I'm getting the last rites, I'm only getting worse every single day, and I'm seeing my parents go through so much, and I can't help them. Externally, on the surface, I wasn't there, besides the vital machine next to my hospital bed that showed signs of life, but on the surface, I wasn't there. That turning point for me was not thinking about me anymore. It was thinking about what this was doing to my family, especially my parents who were right next to my hospital bed every second of every single day. That was the turning point. And I thought, what can I do to help them? I'm going through a lot right now, but I've got the morphine, I've got the sedation. They don't have that. What can I do to help them? And I just became so focused. It's been 15 years since all this happened. This summer will be 15 years in July. It's been like that ever since. It's always my way of what can I do to help put a smile on my mom and my dad's face. That's the goal. And as their only child, my dad had cancer when I was in second grade. That's why I'm the only child, because of that experience. We've been through a lot over the years, as most families have. We have our trials, we have our tribulations, we have our obstacles, but we're family. And seeing them go through that was my turning point, to get back into life again, help them, and move on from that experience and just live life stronger than the previous 2 months when I was in the hospital.
Anybody else have questions for Brian?
Of course.
Hold on, we're going to run a mic over to you. It's okay. We want to record it. So it's good when we have it on the mic, because then we actually have the recording. I appreciate that. Thank you.
The first question was, when you were actually dead, do you remember anything? Did you see anything? Or do you have any memory of being gone? That's question number one. I'm nosy. Question number two is, I could see that you were, as a young man, obviously an athlete and extremely physically strong, but to what do you attribute your incredible mental strength to be able to dedicate yourself to coming back from where you were?
Great questions. Going back to when I was in the hospital, being flown in on medevac, pretty much dead on arrival when I landed in shock trauma, there were, the number that I heard was 8 times that I medically coded, so I had to be brought back to life during those situations. The timing in the coma didn't really exist, so I couldn't really tell what was reality, what was hallucination, what was the coma. It was just like that constant flow of information. Day went into night. I didn't know what day it was, what time it was, what month it was, because I had a concussion at the accident scene also. So that time frame just didn't exist. It was almost like when I was able to come out of the coma, I had so many questions to kind of piece together what I was missing for the previous weeks when I was in the coma. Luckily, they say with that kind of a traumatic experience, it's good not to, like the body almost shields itself from that kind of experience, and I'm very thankful to have that shielding, because that might have been a lot to have to experience. But there were so many memories and nightmares during the coma, but I just kept thinking, okay, whenever I can be weaned off a little bit of the sedation, I'm going to try my best to just show signs of life. And when I did that, it was so difficult to reactivate the muscles in my face and my fingers and my toes to communicate. Wasn't always reliable, and it was a lot of anguish from that. But I just keep persevering in that process, which goes to the next question you had about the mindset. What was it that triggered all the continuous pursuit of getting better? And that's something that we all have, and that was just that outlook on life. I had these goals that I had when I was growing up. I had this perspective of, I'm going to work hard for these goals. Yes, this is bad right now, but I can potentially get better. I can get stronger. I can probably leave here one day and maybe walk on my own. We don't know that for sure, but we're going to be hopeful. Having that kind of optimism, having that kind of determination, that dedication and perseverance when things were really, really difficult, which was a good 3 years of recovery after leaving the hospital, those moments, those little flickers of hope that I saw, that resilience, it fueled that motivation, it fueled that fire for me, seeing what it did for my family and my friends, but also for myself. And I just gravitated towards that. And that led all the way up to doing the Ironman, which ultimately completed the healing process, because I showed my mom and my dad, if I cough or sneeze or have a sore throat, I don't have to go back to the ICU anymore. I'm healed, I'm recovered. But it was that mindset, growing up, playing competitive sports, that was important, but it was also having the mentors. It was having the coaches. It was having the teamwork that I had growing up. And I learned very, very quickly when I was in ICU, I had a whole team of people that were supporting me. And that, to me, is what made the difference, because it wasn't just about me in recovery. It was about what can I do to help these people achieve their goals as well. And that was in life, that was athletically, that was just psychologically, all the way 15 years later. And that transcends a coma, triathlons, all that. It's something that goes right into what we all do every day in our lives, in our careers, for our families, our loved ones, for our team members. It comes from that coaching, that leadership, the mentoring, having people that believe in us, that see that potential with us, and having our mindset where we say, okay, I'm going to take these tools and resources, I'm going to grow from this, and I'm going to be better than ever. And I'm not going to settle. I'm going to keep excelling. I'm going to keep pushing the envelope every single day. And that to me is what it comes down to. But it really is focused on that gratitude, that appreciation. The journey has been tough, but it's been bittersweet. And I'm just so thankful for that. And we've all had those experiences too. It hasn't been easy. You know, our journeys, our careers, our paths, we have to work hard. You got to put the time in, but it's so worth it. And that to me, over the past 15 years, the journey continues, and I'm just so grateful to have that opportunity.
So Brian, I have a question for you. We have a position in our company called a team leader. And what our team leaders do is they help motivate real estate agents to increase their businesses. They give them systems, tools, models. It's really a coaching position. And it's one of the most important positions, if not the most important position in our entire system. Would you go through a career visioning process with me to interview you as a team leader?
Sure can. Be honored to.
Always be closing. All right, we have opportunity for, I am actually going to follow up with you to go through the career visioning process. Okay. So I think if anything, you'll love it. So
sounds good.
We have one opportunity for one more question, and then we're going to let Brian get out there. Cindy Dickerman, up front.
Thank you. Brian, you're obviously a very sensitive person, and you're very in tune to so many things. So through your experience and then now being back, I bet you are very sensitive to things that probably you feel like maybe other people don't know about or don't talk to, or do you know what I'm talking about? Can you tell me about your other experiences that you have, your communication with energy that I know you have?
Love that question. That's so good, because when I was in recovery, when I was still in the coma, all I had was I call it hypersensitivity. I couldn't move, I couldn't talk. Whatever direction my eyes were focused or my bed was inclined that day is what I could see. So my hearing and my perception was everything. I became so tuned in to my environment that I could tell who would be in my room, and I wouldn't have to even see them. I could just sense their energy, negative, positive, verbal, nonverbal cues of communication. They would come in my room, and I'm like, okay, these are good care providers, that's great. Then I'd have people come in that weren't as great, and I was worried, I was concerned just by their energy. The energy I thought was just so important. And that's just not just in the hospital, that's where I kind of learned and really developed that kind of instinct. But also when it comes to everyone has a story, everyone has a journey. It doesn't have to be as extreme as car accidents and comas, but everyone has that path that we've been on. And we can relate to that human experience. That potential is so strong. And I think over the years, just meeting so many incredible individuals, hearing their backgrounds, their stories, talking to their families, just being tuned in to compassion and empathy, that to me has been the most worthwhile experience of going through, as traumatic as that was, the ability to relate to everyone in some form or another. And it may take some time, but it's that instinct, it's a hypersensitivity, and I can just sense it just by their energy, verbal, nonverbal cues. But to me, that's pretty profound, because we're all on this path together, and that experience, it goes so far when it comes to that. So it's pretty amazing. And to be able to just connect with people, just instantaneous, that's good in life and also in our careers, because we just can sense that. And I found that over the years, we talked about the humility today and the gratitude, the appreciation. Once we have these tools and resources, we help others develop as well. That's leadership. That's just being a good person. And that is a life worth living, in my opinion. So that's pretty incredible when it comes to being able to connect with people and just seeing what their strengths are, helping them develop from there, and then just growing from that experience on and have them do the same. But the human experience, we can all relate to.
Guys, let's give Brian a warm round of applause.
Thank you, man. Thank you.